Good morning, everyone. Before I get started here, I just want to note the risk disclaimer at the bottom. Um, Trading futures is risky. It's not suitable for everyone. So make your own decisions. Anything that you watch on the stream is purely for educational purposes. We're not here to guide your trades. And on top of that, the stream is about a variable 5 to 8 seconds and sometimes longer delayed from live. So whatever you're seeing happen here is not real time 100%. So with that out of the way, happy holiday Thursday. We typically stream on Fridays, but tomorrow is July 4th observed. So futures markets will be closed. So we're here on Thursday, shortly after some data drops here this morning. Was a very rangy and volatile overnight session. So we will definitely be letting things um, settle in here this morning. Let me just grab a couple of studies that weren't on my chart. We'll grab our volume profile. All right. So this is our volume profile from the entire session. And let's see where we're at on a weekly basis. This is a 1 hour chart. Each profile is 1 week of volume. So we flirted with this actually kind of barely overlapping area of volume of value. I guess they actually don't quite overlap. There's a tiny little gap in here, and I actually traded this gap last night. I am not a Globex trader, and usually if I'm pushing buttons in Globex, it's not a good thing for me. But I happened to be doing something else, and I'd been watching this area where this is last week's top edge of value, and this is this week's bottom edge of value, and there's maybe 5 to 10 points in between them. So I scalped part of this move last night. I actually missed a decent portion of this because, that's the tricky part when you're trading a session that you don't really trade typically. Is I was like, I got to go make dinner. Why am I still on the computer? But I did scalp this out. Got this nice phantom marker right here and got a nice little push up. So then while I was doing other things, enjoying my evening in the overnight, they pushed it all the way back down, tested a little deeper. You got a similar signal, and we pushed all the way up to a new overnight high. Um, and now we've pulled back again, and we're sitting basically right in the middle of today's value. Point of control is up here at 3150. For those of you who have not watched the stream before, I'm an opening range trader, or at least I use the opening range to guide when I trade and kind of where some of my targets are. And so you won't really see me taking any trades until um, until after the 30-minute opening range gets set. So um, that's kind of my general rule of thumb. Keeps me out of trouble, lets me kind of watch and settle, have the market settle in before I start going and clicking buttons. Um, I think somebody this morning in the Discord highlighted this trade, which is like a nice little pop here on the overnight, and then you get a nice reversal here, basically right around 7, a little after 7:30 Central Time. So I got okay trade last night, so I have a little bit of profit from last night. Nothing crazy. I'm trading one micro in here, so it's also been really just the last couple weeks have just been really volatile. Um, and I think you need a wide enough stop to make sure you're not getting wicked out on moves. That happened to me a bunch yesterday during the early morning RTH session. I was experimenting with uh, some tighter stops, and I ultimately got the move that I wanted, but um, ended up mostly just paying for my stops. Um, so we have some nice levels from the overnight. You can see that we held this big sell impact, this like yellow dotted line. We like got below it and got back above it. And then there's a buy one up here at 192.30, 192 on NQ. But I'm not so excited about taking any trades sitting right here in the middle of value and just like kind of compressing. Like you got this big move overnight, an even bigger move back up, and now kind of a smaller move, and now you're just kind of sitting here in the middle. So we might get a little bit of pre-holiday slowdown as well. Maybe not in the session that you guys are going to watch me trade. I'll be here till like just before 10 a.m. Central, but we could have a little bit lighter volume just with the holiday coming up tomorrow. So just something to keep in mind. So things that I'm looking for here, I'm somebody that I try not to go in with like too many pre-existing plans in terms of like predicting what the market is going to do. Um, but I do like to look at like some potential scenarios. One thing that I think about is I think this is a pretty great level. I mean, the market has held it now twice overnight with a little bit deeper probe on the second try. But this is all in the overnight. And sometimes I find that when we test a really nice level in the overnight, the RTH traders kind of want a piece of that. So it wouldn't surprise me to come back down and look at this level again. It's right below 30,000. So it's like somewhere between 29,950 and 30,000 is kind of this level. So wouldn't surprise me for us to come down and test that as we're doing it almost right now. Um, so let's see what we're looking at here. I'm actually going to adjust this. Seems like there's some extra levels in here that this is not liking. This is just the native motive wave study. Um, there we go. I don't know. Oh, it's just okay. Sorry, I was confused as to why it was showing me my opening range when it hasn't been set, but it's just tracking it. So we're going to sit right on this level here, this large impact level. So our impact studies look for abnormally large single executions. So there was somebody that sold this right here at basically right where price is right now, which is like 30,050 here. I'm going to push up off of it again. Really just chopping here. Pretty nice hold off of that level right now, though. So as we were talking about before I popped back over here and got distracted, this area where we've already kind of held a couple times, I just wouldn't be surprised to see that get tested in RTH again. Um, so I'd be interested to see if we come back, what price does in this zone, because this zone here, like the bottom of it is like 29,950. Um, and um, that's the same level that's over here. So be interested to see if we can get down here, what price does. Um, Also, I'm on a chart wise on a 3000 vol chart for MNQ. Um, I'm actually going to switch over to a 500 vol chart on the NASDAQ, not on MNQ. So let me just drop the M there. And take me just a second to load that new time frame. So levels will be slightly different here. Um, just in terms of what ScalperIQ sees, because the volume profile is going to be different in terms of like sizes and big contracts and all those kind of things. But um, going to test this level here from the underside. And I'm cross trading. I'm still trading M and Q. So in Motive Wave, you can right click and hit cross trade. So I'm basically watching the actual main NQ contract, but I'll cross trade to MNQ. Kind of boring so far though. I have about another 15-ish minutes before the opening range is set. Just kind of one of those, you know, hasn't been a super exciting week. Got this nice rally up and then it just kind of drifted and gave it all back, or at least half of it back. We're just kind of sitting here in this zone where we sold off from. It's like rally sell off from last week, and now we're just like trading in the middle of it. Doesn't make me super excited to be touching anything in this particular area, um, but here to watch. So I'm actually going to scroll my DOM down. I want to be looking at this level down here, 29,960. Basically in this area is where our DOM is focused. Um, so I'm somebody that, like, I love trading with a DOM, but I also think that the way that they move really can encourage anxiety and create FOMO, particularly the Nasdaq, because it moves around so fast. And so I think it's easy to sort of like, um, be watching every tick in here and be like, oh, I'm sure that I see buyers or I'm sure that I see sellers, and you might, but like I've already said that I'm not really interested in taking any trades inside of value from the overnight session here that I'm interested in executing up here. We haven't really talked about upper levels, but a test above the overnight high would also be testing some of these levels from yesterday. So that might be interesting. I'm not really looking for continuation of any kind. I'm kind of still looking at mean reversion for the most part this morning. I think the market pre-holiday, we're kind of already stuck in value. Um, that I think we're just going to continue to do the same. So I'm looking to fade any extremes outside of value to the other side. So I've already kind of talked about what might happen down at this level from the overnight. And then anything that gets too extreme to the upside, I would probably look for some selling pressure to enter up there. But not too interested in here. And so along those lines, if I'm not already said that I'm not interested in trading in the middle, then I'm not going to put my dom here and just like watch things happen, because I think the monkey brain kind of takes over and you're like, wow, look how fast that's moving. I bet I can just scalp a few points. Um, and most of us know how that usually plays out. So I just scroll my dom to where I'd be like the first place I'd be interested to be watching it to um, see if there's buyers. And if it doesn't get there, then I don't have to stress myself out watching price move around like crazy. So I'm also going to flip my phantom study to RTH only. I like its signals in RTH, and the if you have it looking at the entire overnight session, sometimes the rankings from, because we're ranking sort of like the best and strongest signals from the entire session. When we have max markers per session, right now I have it set to 5. Um, Sometimes you can kind of use up some of your slots if you don't get a stronger level during RTH, because it's looking at the entire session as a whole. So I like to flip this one to RTH. Um, you can do it with all the studies, but my particular setup is to keep everything else on the full session, but Phantom I like having set to RTH only once RTH has opened. So far, it's a decent opening range. If we push here, we'll be looking at like just around 200 points on the NASDAQ for an opening range. There's a little phantom right there. So phantom is showing that there's just a little bit of weakness behind that push. Like basically it pushed up, didn't really find much volume or interest, and came back down all in the same candle. Doesn't mean you're just going to immediately reverse from there, but it's at least flagging that buyers are struggling a little bit there. Zoom in just a little bit. Already a pretty decent scalp off of that if you took it. And it's flagging it basically just inside of that one candle. So doesn't mean that move is going to last for very long. That was probably like a 30-second pullback. It's enough to, if you're looking for it ahead of time, to take it, but buyers already pushing back through it. Let's check where. All right, so edge of value for this week is way up at 35.62. So we're squarely trading inside of this week's value. 35.62 is through the overnight high and beyond off my chart at the moment. So not really an area I'm looking at unless we really start to push here. But we're going to test. We're basically right now going to put the opening range high right at the edge of value. Going to test out of value here. Nice little push from the buyers. They get it close enough up here, you think they're probably going to try to retest the high. This is still pre 30-minute opening range getting set. Buyer's going to see if they can get to the high before the opening range gets set. These are some big rotations though. You know, this is from the overnight we did 29,950 to like where we're sitting right now. So that's like almost 300 points. This one is almost 400 points. So now we're kind of rotating again. So adjust your stops accordingly. If you think that it's too volatile, trade the micros if whatever your risk profile says. I think one of the great things about how much we've been moving around in the last couple weeks, even though it's been really volatile, is that you can actually make, you know, a decent number of points on the micro contracts. You know, there's no reason, in my opinion, to really expose yourself to the mini contracts. It's also depending on what your account size is. But you know, sometimes if we're trading in like, you know, 100-point range or something really choppy, it can be really difficult to, you know, feel like you're making enough points on the micros. But we're definitely moving around right now enough that sometimes even micro risk can feel like it can climb. All right, so they've moved value for the entire session, just now updated to being around 30,265, which is like right at the high. So kind of getting a little pullback here. They basically just tested where this exhaustion marker flagged from the overnight. So we got like a little bit of exhaustion, it pulled back, and then it pushed higher, and then ultimately rolled over again. So our exhaustion markers will flag that cool down. But really, like when you talk about exhaustion can be temporary, and also there's no way to predict further than just saying we've been on a hot streak, like volume has been pushing super, super high. in one direction, which is the beginnings of exhaustion. And then we flag whenever that move starts to cool off, but there's no like magic formula to know like on this cool off we're going to pull back a bunch, or on this cool off we're just going to pull back a little bit. So, that's why for most of our really for all of our studies, these are, I would call them information bubbles. You're given some information, and based on whatever other levels you're looking at, whatever else is going on in the session contextually, what your risk tolerance is, you can take a scalping trade off of one of those. Um, but we don't really have, we kind of pride ourselves on not being a signal service. So um, we don't, we're not like, here's this marker, ultimately time to short. Um, now it might put you into the mindset that like, we're kind of cooling off near this over this high, and then we get another push, and then you put in a delta zone here at the top. Maybe as you start to pull back or you get back below this marker, you think about taking a trade. But um, I always caution people to not, you know, if you're new and you're just starting to use our studies, especially if you're on a trial, I'd very much encourage you to watch a few sessions live to see how everything plays out, how markers show up, where they show up, how the market responds to them, and take a look at some historical sessions. Scroll through, how did things play out yesterday? Where would you have taken a trade? All of those kind of things. So when we're tracking order flow, which is what all of our studies are looking at through different lenses, order flow is a lot of it is computer trading nowadays, but it's also there's a human element to it. So, you know, mixing computers and humans is messy, and so order flow is one of those things that is not, in my opinion, not like um, a rigid thing. If you were on stream with me last week, I took the same short trade 3 times in a row because I saw sellers in the same area each time. I got stopped twice and then ultimately got the move that I wanted. That's just kind of how, in my opinion, how order flow trading works. You know, you have to have cutoffs. I said on stream that was going to be uh, my last trade. I was only going to take it that last third time, and was fortunate enough to finally get the move that I wanted. But um, sometimes that's just how it has to play out. All right, so we're about to set the opening range here in just about a minute. We usually get some volume and volatility as the 30-minute opening range opens up. All right, so our opening range is about 250 points. So basically 30,000 to 30,260. And right now, our opening range high also lines up with the edge of value to the upside for this session. Good. So a little buyers broke that. So buyers with, we kind of always say like kind of general rule of thumb is whichever side breaks the opening range, whichever side first kind of has an edge. So in this case, edge goes to the buyers. Barely broke out the opening range high after it got set there. Now pulling back. I'd be interested in seeing if we get a reoffer up here. But not really interested in playing until we can get up into this area. So I think I'm actually going to scroll my DOM up to, we're closer to this level up here than we are down here. So um, let me get us up to past price. This is the 320 is the overnight high. So somebody sitting there with about 60 contracts to sell to. So it might be enough liquidity to be a little bit of a magnet, which is kind of how it looks like it's looking right now. I mean, if they're going to come up here this fast, I don't know if I'm going to be interested in fading it. See if that lines, let's see if the overnight high lines up with anything else interesting. This here, that's all the way up to 352. Not really. Not really, and it's going to be like squarely in the middle of value for the week. Probably sitting around generally close to the weekly mid would be my guess. All my opening range stuff is set to daily. I've had before where I take one of these. This is just Motive Wave's native study, and basically duplicate it and then set one to daily and one to weekly. But it just, for me personally, it just gets to be too many lines on my chart. I'm already a little OCD about keeping my chart clean. Makes sense because that's kind of how I've been a part of developing Scalper to be really clean and easy to read. So, doing that and then putting a whole bunch of lines on my chart just feels anti what I'm trying to do. So I kind of have in my head that we're close to the weekly mid, but I don't have an actual level on my chart for that. That's a pretty sharp pullback. Still not really getting any selling. I mean, from we're not getting aggressive enough selling to like roll candle color over. You can see in every one of these pullbacks, our candle coloring is a composite um, of delta flow, price action, and volume. So if it's neutral, like it is right now, it's like neutral with a slight buy bias. That's kind of telling you that nobody's in control of all three of those. Um, but if we're pulling back and we haven't really shifted color over to the sell color, then you know that buyers still kind of have control um, of at least those three elements of the price action and the volume and the delta. So each one of these pullbacks, we're actually getting like an aggressive flip back over. Um, it's like a very, very slight move to sell and then an aggressive push back to buy. And looks like whoever tried that maneuver did not get what they wanted. But, we're not shifting over to this orange color just yet. Just now, we're kind of like starting to push a little bit. Um, but still kind of like hanging out here in the middle. And pretty easy to put in another. We've done higher low, higher low, higher low, and now working on another higher low here. Choppy pullback. Seller's going to try a little something. Here comes the sell crowd. Wow. They kind of pulled the rug on them there. And this is why we say these markers for like flipping from sell delta to buy delta are contextual. So you get just as much information to say buyers tried to push and then the candle coloring switched over shortly thereafter. So I would say, whatever aggressive buyers were trying to push this back up to the high got a little bit off sides there. And so now we're pushing to the downside. So informative, not always indicative of the direction that we're going to go. Uh, I'm going to test this impact level here right at 31.30. Just held it to the tick. And there's your 30-point move off of it already. You basically had to be sitting there with a bid, though. It's like volatile enough that it's like tradable, but it's also, it feels like a holiday or like a pre-holiday. Just inside of today's value, inside of the week's value, and sitting right here at the point of control. That is a nice move off of that level. Held to the tick at 31.33 and 50-point move almost instantly. Love to see it. Man, ScalperIQ impact just showing off for the stream. Almost a 100-point move off of that. Going to be a 100-point move here in just a second. Now, did I trade it? No. Woe is me taking trades right at the point of control. No, thank you. But look at that move. Nice work to anybody that was watching that level. I saw it, but it's right in the middle. So hard pass from me. Opening range high, coming back up here, and still right at the edge of value again. Man, there's just not much happening at the moment. Market's already on holiday. It just hasn't got to anywhere that I feel like touching it. Just right inside this huge block of value. Come the sellers again. I'm gonna go retest this level maybe. I don't know if it holds that cleanly the second time. And test that same level again. They got through it that time. Oh man, just working this level. Now just gonna chop around it. I'm like lightly considering a short scalp here if we can stay under this level. Stop would be around this 170 area probably. But I don't love it. Target to the downside would probably be the edge of value, so back down near 30K. Yeah, they're just going to push it though. Just giving you a less clean bounce off of that level from impact. You see them hold underneath this level. Might have got away from me. I'm going to scoot my offer up a little bit. I'm going to offer 130. Right, basically right around that level. 20-point stop. Just seeing if they'll come tag me and get a little bit of continuation back to the downside. Or they might just leave without me. It's rude. I won't hold this here for too long on the way back up. In terms of like, I won't let my offer sit out there for too long. Like if we get below, yeah, I mean, if we get to my, we're basically like, we're getting close to my target now. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull my offer. That was most of the move that we were looking for. I'd already have my stop probably at break even if we had been filled. So we'll see if it comes back up and what it does at this level. But when it has that much distance like that, I would like to watch what it's going to do if it's going to come up with momentum like that. So it held again to the underside. But I think the sellers is like starting to weaken a little bit, just barely. And we're just like right in the middle too. Like the point of control is like basically where our stop would be, which is not usually a good idea. It's like I shouldn't have pulled that offer. I'm gonna come back up and try it again. That time with a little bit more force. They're gonna force me to take this here in a second because they just can't get it back above this level. I mean, we had a couple of good looks at it. I really don't like taking trades in the middle of value if I can help it. It is just choppy, choppy. So since we're not short and we're coming to the downside, we'll look at this zone and this impact level that overlap around 29,964 if we get there. It's about another 100 points. And that would have been our profit target there. Really nice hold of that level. You basically got a nice long off of it, and now you're getting a nice short from the underside of it. A little weakness from the sellers there. Got a little phantom bubble popping up. How weak the move is also uh, based on how big, sorry, the size of the markers is based on how weak the move is. So you see you got that, and now you got it immediately kind of like pop off of that area. It's going to be edge of value on NQ basically right here. Coming down in a hurry. All right, so I'm going to get my DOM back to this level down here. 29,9650. That's a strong push from the sellers. Coming down angry. And they actually just moved the zone we were looking at is now this zone. Wow, they are there already. That impact level is 29,960. We got to give it a second because that is really fast and really angry. Straight through it. That is a great short trade that we were not a part of. All right, let's see if they can get back above this level. Just tested it from the underside and got smacked back down. Yeah, and the pace of trading just picked up quite a bit. Yeah, that didn't hold at all. And that's why we look and watch and wait. It's also a level from the extended session. But you saw this one hold nicely. This one just didn't have any interest. So look on a higher time frame. We're kind of down into this area again, but that is a big angry 30-minute candle. This is an area that I was interested in taking a long from, but I would probably let them try to get it back above 29,960 before I start thinking about that. And there's some exhaustion. So a little bit of weakening on that bounce, but you'll see that right after it printed, it's just going to try to roll over again. So it's flagging that, this move finally ran out of steam, at least temporarily. She got some covering, some buying down there. Wow. Moving very, very, very fast. All right, they're above that level now for a second. All right, I'm long at 64. Stop is going to be 34. I don't know that I expect for this to hold very well here, but we're going to try. So they rebid that level. Going to look for a very quick scalp up to 30,000. Come on. Filled. All right. Just a quick little move there. That wasn't a really aggressive move down, so not looking to hold for too long, but once we got back above this level, that was the trade I wanted to take there. They really flushed the level that I was actually looking at, but got exhaustion, got a high intensity delta zone, and then we had a clear level to get back above. To You need some kind of trigger. At least I need a trigger for execution. But I'm not apt to hold that for too long because that was a pretty aggressive move to the downside. Let's see if buyers can get back above 30K. Nice little like 40-point winner there. And it's back down to where we got in. I'm not going to take it a second time. I don't know if anybody has experimented with, having Claude or GPT or any other AI do some like research into intraday trading or studies, but it's kind of funny because for as much stuff as it's really, an expert in and can pull a lot of information from, um, it was telling me the other day, it was like, all right, we're looking for holds on the NASDAQ for like 30 minutes to 60 minutes to get 40 points. And I was like, dude, you were going to have to go do some research. Why don't you look at a data set? This is not 2001 anymore. We're going to trade 40 points or 50 points in 30 seconds. Um, so kind of a fun area that their training data is not 100% uh, up to speed. Buyer's going to fight a little bit here. Going to try to hold this zone. It's a very angry candle. Might come down and this is like almost an exact hold. That's not a great looking low there on NQ from my perspective. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them come down and clean this up. It's about 9:35 here, Central Time. Uh, I think volume, in my opinion, will start to wane after the morning. People going to get their picnic, picnics ready, boats ready, whatever it is people do for the 4th of July. In Oklahoma, it was go buy fireworks. And then I lived in New York for 10 years and I was like, oh, I guess you can't buy fireworks here. Not that it stopped anybody in the city from owning them. They just didn't sell them inside of New York City. But I definitely remember coming home one night with a friend uh, to our neighborhood. It's like, I don't know, 10 or 11 at night on the 4th of July, like coming back from a party with friends. And I mean, our street could have been straight out of a war zone. Just, colorful missiles flying from side to side, people hiding underneath cars. The whole street was full of smoke. It's kind of funny. See if buyers can get back above this level again. There they go. Gonna get a color change this time too. See if they can get, buyers can get going a little bit better. Exact level is 29,960, which is right there. They just tagged. Considering taking it a second time. Nope, didn't hold it that time. It's going to start to get messy. So just the one scalp so far. Back above this level again. It's just not very, it's, it's just not nearly as clean now because we just rotated through it so many times. Mm. Yeah. Like I want to see, like, I want to see it like, flicker around 960 and then hold back above and flicker around 960. And it's like getting down below 950 is like not holding my level as close as I want it to hold. It's just really messy. Like it keeps going to where around where my stop would be. So now that's like getting closer to like a failure to get back above that level. Now you're seeing a push down. Yeah. We just barely got filled on our scalp before, but barely counts. See if buyers can put in a little bit of a higher low here. You have like higher low probed, and now trying to put in a higher low at that same, at this zone. It's a pretty serious hourly candle to the downside though. Yeah, I don't want to go much. Yeah, that's not holding by my standards. So it looks like they want to clean up that low, in my opinion. I don't know if they'll get it there, but if I was short, that would be my target. So really all the only trade we've actually taken is just this short scalp from, we saw exhaustion, we saw it hold a zone, it got back above the level that we were looking to maybe buy at, and just caught it on the way back up for just, 40-ish, 40 to 50 points. Um, but ultimately paying a lot better to be short. They're going to try to get that low. There they go. Oof. Liquidity not so good. You see it jumping like 20 points at a time. Look at that hourly candle. Ooh. If they're going to get moving to the downside here, you have kind of a bit of your next sort of like high volume node area is around 29,676. Um, and I was about to say that seems like a long ways away, but at the rate they're moving, it's not a long ways away. That's like down here. Buyers just get trucked. There's a big sell level there right at the bottom though. See an impact level showing up right there, right at 800. And then a phantom push off of it. There you go. Buyer's going to try something there. It's still got quite a bit of momentum to the downside though, so I think you have to respect what it's doing, even though we're getting some signals that I might like in terms of getting in. But yeah, they still got sellers still got ammo. And the other issue is that you're basically trading through this low volume area here. And it's not until like 29,700 to 29,600 is where you have a little bit of volume from the open of this week. So it's like, taking signals for scalping, in my opinion, still needs to look at, higher time frame and structure. Like, is the scalp taking place in a good area? Can it increase your odds? But get a little push off this area. I'm only here for about another 15 minutes, guys, and then I think heading into lunchtime. Um, yeah, nice push off of that impact level and off of that phantom marker there. Solid 30, 40, almost 50 point move now. But boy, it is trading fast and angry. And that was something that I talked about at the beginning of the stream, saying that, you know, we're a little far away from it now, but like this level from the overnight, this little like zone between bottom of value for this week and the upper side of value from last week was a nice place to hold in the overnight. And then they kind of held it again, just a little bit lower. And then now we're down here doing damage to the weekly volume profile. Way out of value on the intraday session and out of value on the weekly. Point of control from last week is just a little bit lower. Sitting at 29,750. I'm going to hold that level again. Nice holds off these levels right at 800. I like the signals from Scalper there. I don't like where it's at on the higher time frame. But buyer's going to get a nice little push off of here. That's pretty textbook though. Like if you, in my opinion, if you wanted to buy that level, you know, you get your phantom marker to show you there's a little weakness, a zone to show you that sellers were real extreme ahead of time. You get a push back up through that level, and then you're able to buy it on the retest if that's what you wanted. But seller's still very aggressive down here, so I'm loath to try a long trade against this kind of selling pressure. Gonna test it again though. Held again. Oh, not that time. Point of control from last week looks likely. We're at 746-ish, 750-ish. It's like another 30 to 40 points lower. Yep. And that's last week's point of control. Try to get back above this level. And they definitely did. I like it a little bit better now that we flushed lower and basically tested the last week's point of control there at 750. Now pushing up off of it. Having a hard time getting back above the overnight low though. Let's see, they're going to give me another look at this level. I'm not going to give this very much room. We'll see if they fill me, which they did. We have a 20-point stop on it. Just to see if it holds nicely. We're going to look for, I'm long at 98. And see if we get a push back up closer to 850. I'm going to go ahead and put an offer out. Actually, I'm just going to flatten right there. And flatten at 50. It's another 50-point winner. Getting close to my cutoff time. I don't take trades after 10 a.m. Central Time. So that's another nice scalp off of that level. I don't love that they're continuing to sort of knock on it each time, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them push this higher. I just prefer the scalp, um, and that's going to be a nice. Honestly, that's a nice set of trades for me because I had traded that move that we talked about at the beginning of the stream from the overnight. I traded some of this pop. We got a nice little scalp um, up here, and then scalped one of these tests off here, and we'll see it did not hold very cleanly the next time. So that was why I was not too apt to hold that, is that sellers are still, I mean, you can just tell from the candle coloring. That's sort of the nice thing about Scalper IQ is you can glance at and say, well, yeah, there's some buying happening. You're getting some pops, but sellers still firmly in control here. So with 7 minutes left, I'm probably just going to sit on my hands for the rest of the time. A little holiday sell-off. Man, still making new lows. That's going to get below last week's point of control. That's another new impact level there. Another big seller right at 750. I probably wouldn't like that as much for a long because I would assume you have traffic here right above with this zone and this other impact level that we actually just scalped off of. Um, we actually got just like if we zoom in just a little bit, you can see there was like a little bit of weakness right after we bought here. And I was hoping that we would get a little more oomph there. And instead we got like into the 840s and just kind of paused. So we're above this impact level though, here. That was a little touch and go. And man, that is a, if you were short, this is like the only area that buyers kind of tried to take the ball. But there's some weakness from sellers finally. See the candle coloring just kind of starting to dim a little bit. Like they haven't fully lost it, but getting weaker. Back above that 800 level, or temporarily, and getting a little bit of a color change. The buyer's getting into control just a little bit here. See if they can get it back above the overnight low. No more trades for me, but if I was still trading, I would be really interested in a long around this area if they can keep holding it above 800. Like, I'm thinking that I got what might have been a very quick version of this move, and if buyers can actually get a little volume going here, they might be able to get it back up and test at least this zone, which is like, 100 120 points away. But they can't keep letting sellers do that. Oh, sellers just, yeah. Some very aggressive selling. You see some gaps in the on the DOM as well. The liquidity is not great either, just areas where there's nobody bidding or offering. Just like something good to know and to watch because, you know, price on the Nasdaq these days can move really, really fast on its own, but when we start to not have good liquidity, which is probably somewhat due to the volatility and also pre-holiday, you're just getting less participants, so it's just going to make what might already be a violent move be that much faster. But you do have a really interesting setup starting here. You got this aggressive sell marker right at this impact level, yet buyers are kind of trying to still hold it down here. So if you could get a nice color change pop back up above this level, I think you might run a little bit. I'm actually going to watch to see if it plays out that way, even though I'm not going to take the trade. I'll be off stream here in like another 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, there's the start of that move that I would be looking for. See if they give you a chance to buy that exact impact level. It's right there. Touch. And now see if it goes. That overnight low is becoming a little bit of a problem. Also, since I already said I'm not going to take the trade, it has a 100% chance to work. That's how those things work. Yeah, nice. There you go. I'm going to give you another look at that level. Not a lot of strength from the buy crowd just yet. But they are just barely rebidding the overnight low here. Gonna do almost another 50 points off of that impact level again. They just have a roof on 850. They just barely got it above right there. And gonna sell from it again. All right, guys. Starting to get kind of choppy down here. Getting close to at least East Coast lunch hour. So sellers did some pretty decent damage during that session. We took a couple of quick little scalps, but ultimately was looking for mean reversion. Towards the edge of value. I didn't think that sellers would get quite this aggressive, but they are now, so have to adjust accordingly. So took a couple of small scalps. I took a scalp from this move in the overnight session. So overall, pretty successful session for me. Just our overall thesis in terms of mean reverting the edges of the weekly profiles didn't really hold up. Instead, we got a really aggressive hourly selling candle. So everybody enjoy the holiday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on next Friday. So come join us in the Discord. You can check us out at our website. Our Discord is free to join. If you're interested in testing out ScalperIQ, we have free trials available. You can get a 2-week free trial. So come say hi. Cheers, everyone.